Lofi Poli Sci coming at you. Michael Pickering here talking about our famous question. What's going on in the world today? And today we have our fourth installment of 100 Global News Stories here in Season 6. And we did it in August, we did it in September, in October, and now in November. But what exactly is it that we do? Well, today, or 2 days ago for you, on Sunday, November 13th at 2 p.m. Central NOLA time, we looked at the first 10 stories on the international news sections of all of the 10 following news sites to get a review of 100 global news stories that we see today. And these 10 news sites are BBC World, AP World, CNN World, Fox World, Washington Post World, New York Times World, NPR World, Reuters World, Google News World, and Yahoo News World. And that's at 10 news providers, 10 international news stories from each, 100 global news stories. Let's see what we found. We see that there were 33 different stories out of 100 global news stories, meaning 67 of the articles surveyed were either duplicates, triplicates, or even covered 18 times. Our top 4 stories were: number 1, Ukraine-Russia war, 18 articles. Number 2, well, tied for number 2 and number 3, Istanbul explosion/bombing, and U.S. elections. Each one covered 11 times. And number 4, the G20 meeting. 8 articles were about the G20. Our top 4 stories alone made up 48% of all coverage that we looked at. 48%. 4 stories. But this time, this episode, we're going to do something a little bit different that we haven't done before. We're going to give you what each of those 33 different stories were, so you can see the variety of news, or lack thereof, that we got. So coming in at number 1 was Ukraine and Russia with 18 stories. Then coming in tied for number 2 and 3, Istanbul explosion and bombing, and the U.S. elections, 11 stories each. Then number 4 was the G20 meeting that had 8 stories. Number 5 was the elections in Israel, had 7 stories. Number 6, Asian conference with 4 stories. Number 7, climate change, 4 stories. Number 8, Iran protest, 4 stories. Number 9, airport man dies, 4 stories. And yes, I'm leaving it vague because you can go see what that really means. Number 10 was COP27 with 3 stories. Number 11, Ethiopian civil war ends with 3 stories. Now, all the rest of them had 1 story each. All right, let's hit it. 2 planes crash in a Texas air show. The king of crypto falls. World Cup and soccer. A building collapses in France. The Cyprus church leader was laid to rest. 800 people on a cruise ship got COVID and docked in Australia. Something with the monarchy and the king in the UK. I didn't read that far into it. Uganda pregnancy test for university was thrown out the window. Good thing for that one. And a TikToker in Nigeria was convicted of defaming the government, and they were caned and had to clean toilets. And also, Portugal protests were going on. There was an article about Chinese birth rates. There was an article about Chile's first lady. There was an article about Mexico drought and a beer shortage. There was another article about Benin and abortion rights. Another one about North Korea and neo-Cold War. One about UK police policy targeting black people in the country. We had 1 story about COVID. Well, 2 stories, but this one was different than the 800 people on that cruise ship. I felt like that one deserved its own little spot. We had another one about Israel striking another target in Syria. And then we had an article about the U.S. and China meeting for the first time in quite a few years. We had one about the White House wedding coming up. I have no idea what that is. We had another one about Iraq and ISIS. And our last one, or the one I am putting last, Banksy revealed another one of his graffitis in Ukraine. And let me just say, so that's all 33 of the 100. A little bit of bias that I saw. Only 2 stories out of all 100 had anything to do with Latin America. One was about the first lady of a country, and the other was about a shortage of beer. Take from that what you will. But what we want to know, what we need to know. Now we have 400 global news stories that we've looked at over the past 3 months. What do we got? Question mark? 87 out of 400 stories. Just over 21% of all articles over the past 3 months were about one topic. 1 in 5 articles out of 400 were about Russia-Ukraine war. Every month, it's the number 1 story covered. Every month, the number 2, number 3, number 4, they all change. But Russia and Ukraine remains, for months now, the most covered story in international news. But what does that mean to you?